Planet Earth, our home. There's plenty of water, lots of fresh air, and the temperatures are usually not too bad. A pretty comfortable place for us, and lots of other living things. But up there in space, on other planets, things are very different. Do you think it's possible for anything to live up there? Wouldn't it be great to visit and find out?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Mission Control to Space Shuttle Columbia. Request launch checklist.
All systems are go.
Okay, so they're not really astronauts, but they might be someday. Well, except for this one.
Launch minus 20 seconds.
In the past, we've only been able to explore other planets by sending probes to take pictures and gather information. But someday, we may be able to visit the planets ourselves. In fact, that's our mission today, to visit the planets.
5, 4, 3, 2,
1, and liftoff.
Before we reach our first planet, what do we need to know? Mission Control wants us to learn everything we can about the solar system, including
what is a planet? Do the planets move? Could there be life out there? And which planet has water, oxygen, and life?
So tell Mission Control we'll be gone a while. We're going to check out the planets. Earth sure looks pretty from way up here. And look, there's our moon. Our Earth and moon are part of a solar system. Solar means sun. And all of the planets, moons, and other space objects that circle around the sun work together as a system, the solar system. Planets are very different. Some are rocky, and some are gaseous with no solid land. Some are closer to the sun than Earth, and some are farther away. Our sun is an enormous fiery ball, much, much bigger than Earth. It provides us with light and heat, two things that are necessary for life to survive as we know it. Our sun is actually an ordinary star, just like millions of other stars in space. But it's special to us because it's in the center of our solar system.
To really understand the size of the sun and all the planets, let's make a solar system pizza. Our star, the sun, is huge compared to the planets in our solar system. In fact, it's bigger than all 9 of the planets combined. Let's say the sun was the size of this really large pizza. Then Pluto, the farthest planet from the sun, would only be the size of a tiny peppercorn. Neptune would be a meatball. Uranus would be a meatball with sauce on it. Saturn would be a large onion. And the largest planet, Jupiter, would be a grapefruit. Next is Mars. It would only be the size of a small nut. Our own planet, Earth, would only be the size of an olive. Venus would be the size of a blueberry. And Mercury, the closest planet to the sun, would just be the size of a pea. Now that we understand the different sizes, Let's see what each planet looks like up close. Mission Control. Approaching the first planet, Mercury. Reports say it looks a lot like our moon.
We are about to reach our first planet, Mercury, the planet closest to the Sun. Mercury is a dry ball of rock with no oxygen, which does look a lot like Earth's moon. If we went to Mercury, we would have to bring oxygen with us so we could breathe. And because Mercury is the closest planet to the Sun, the days are hotter than the hottest oven. So make a note for Mission Control. Without oxygen and comfortable temperatures, life as we know it couldn't exist here. Maybe we'll find something at the next planet on our stop. Venus is the second planet from the Sun. It is a solid planet and has a rocky surface that's covered with volcanoes and channels, which are like dry riverbeds. But Venus is best known for its scorching heat. It's the hottest planet in the solar system, even hotter than Mercury. Venus's high temperatures are partly due to the thick clouds that cover the planet like a blanket. These clouds are not the kind we're used to on Earth. These are filled with harmful chemicals which trap heat and prevent it from escaping. That's why we have sent space probes instead of people to take pictures of its extremely hot surface. These pictures were taken from a Russian probe called Venera. No life has been found on Venus. No people, animals, or plants. Maybe we'll have better luck with the next planet. Hey, this looks pretty familiar. It's where we started our journey, our home, planet Earth. From space, you can see the blue oceans, the white clouds, and the brownish-green land. As we all know, plants, animals, and human beings do live here. Earth has two very important things that we didn't find on Mercury and Venus: oxygen and water. Oxygen in our air allows us to breathe. If we were to visit any other planet, we would have to bring our air with us. And water covers most of our planet. Not only do we drink it, but it's a home for many creatures as well. Our distance from the Sun keeps our oceans in a liquid state, which humans need in order to survive.
If Earth were much closer to the Sun than it is now, the oceans would boil, just like boiling water on a stove. But if Earth were much farther from the Sun, the oceans would freeze solid, like a giant ice cube.
Earth's distance from the Sun allows the temperatures to stay pretty comfortable for living things. Of course, some places can get pretty cold in the winter or hot in the summer. Seasons change because the Earth is tilted a little to one side. The part of the Earth which is leaning nearest to the Sun has summer, while the part farther away is in winter. But in most places, most of the time, the temperature is within a range that allows humans to survive. Earth is truly a great planet, but you already knew that. Let's move on to the next planet. Imagine living in a world where most everything looks red. Welcome to Mars, also known as the Red Planet. The ground looks reddish in color, and the sky looks pink. That's because a chemical in the soil has turned everything rusty, and strong winds can kick up the soil into the air, making the sky look pink. The chemical is called iron oxide, and it's the same chemical that can turn an old car rusty if it's left out in the rain for a long time. If we landed on Mars, we would need a special spacesuit to protect us from the cold. That's because Mars is much farther away from the Sun than the Earth. Even in the fastest spaceship, it would take 8 months to travel from Earth to Mars. So special probes have been sent to Mars that landed, sampled the rusty soil, and took some great photographs. Mars is interesting, but no life was found. Still, we keep investigating the red planet, sending probes, landers, and someday maybe even astronauts to explore Mars up close. Many of you have probably played with remote control cars. Well, scientists like them too. This rover isn't that different from a remote control car. It can turn left and right and can roll right over small rocks. Difference is, this mini rover was built to explore asteroids. This rover is called the Sojourner, and it was used to explore Mars. Unlike humans, Sojourner didn't mind the cold and didn't need air to breathe. Its job was to test the soil and study Martian rocks. NASA scientists on Earth controlled Sojourner using lots of special computers. What will they think of next? Well, so far, we've visited Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. Scientists call these the inner planets. They are all rocky, solid, and similar in size. So far, Earth is the only planet that supports life. But our journey's not over yet. Some of the most mysterious planets are yet to come.
Mission Control to Space Shuttle Columbia. Be careful, because the trip's going to get a bit rocky. Before you reach the next planet, you have to pass through the asteroid belt.
Asteroids are like tiny rocky planets, although they're not perfectly round. Many are big enough that we could land on them if we wanted to. About 1 million asteroids are orbiting the Sun between Mars and Jupiter. Once we make our way past the asteroids, we're now a long, long way from the Sun and about to approach the outer planets, which are very different from the inner planets. The first of the outer planets is Jupiter, and it's the biggest of all the planets in our solar system. If we tried to visit Jupiter in person, we'd have major problems. First of all, we wouldn't be able to land a spaceship on it because Jupiter is a gaseous planet. That means there's no solid ground to land on. Secondly, Jupiter has some of the most violent weather in the solar system. This circle is actually a gigantic windstorm. It's called the Great Red Spot. Scientists have learned it's a storm 3 times the size of Earth. Much windier than any storm Earth has ever experienced. The next outer planet is Saturn, the 6th planet from the Sun. It is another huge gaseous planet and one of the most beautiful in the solar system, best known for its incredible rings. From a distance, the rings look solid, but they're really made up of billions of rocks and icy chunks like snowballs. Some are the size of snowballs that you play with, but others are as big as a house. Saturn is very far away from Earth. If we hopped on a space shuttle, it would take us 6 years to get there. And once we got there, we would have to be careful not to run into one of its 21 moons. Saturn has the most moons of any planet. So many, in fact, that they cause the planet's rings.
How do Saturn's moons cause its rings? Let's investigate. You'll need a record player, an old record, 2 or 3 pencils, tape, sugar, and a small plastic card. Tape the pencils together. Make sure that their points are even. Evenly cover the surface of the record with sugar. Be careful, this can get messy. Smooth out the sugar with the plastic card. Now, slowly lower the points of the pencils straight down to the record. Notice how the pencil points push the sugar to the side and form cleared paths? This is how Saturn's moons move through the huge cloud of rocks and ice chunks, push the material aside, and form separate rings.
After Saturn is another huge gaseous planet. This one's called Uranus, and it's the 7th planet from the Sun. Uranus is also a ring planet, but its rings are not as obvious as Saturn's. These are very thin and dark. These pictures of Uranus were taken from a space probe called Voyager. But what these pictures don't show you is how cold it is here. Even our warmest clothes wouldn't protect us on Uranus. On Earth, water freezes at 32 degrees Fahrenheit. On Uranus, temperatures average around minus 300 degrees Fahrenheit, or minus 184 degrees Celsius. Will the next outer planet be just as cold? Neptune, the 8th planet from the Sun, is not only freezing cold, but super windy too. We learned that Jupiter's Great Red Spot was actually a terrible windstorm. Well, Neptune's Great Dark Spot is even worse. It has some of the fastest, fiercest winds in the entire solar system, up to 1,100 kilometers per hour, or in other words, 700 miles per hour. Like Uranus, the blue color of Neptune isn't an ocean. It's a mixture of gases, so we couldn't land our spaceship on Neptune either. Well, in the second half of our tour, we covered the first 4 of the outer planets: Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. All are huge, are made of gases and liquids, and some have visible ring systems. We'll keep looking for life, but there doesn't seem to be any that we know of out this way. There's only one planet left to explore. What do you think it will be like?
Space Shuttle Columbia to mission control. Approaching planet Pluto. Looks like the smallest planet we've seen yet.
If we were to travel to Pluto, we could land on it because Pluto is solid, unlike the other outer planets. Still, we wouldn't want to get out of our spacecraft. Because it's the farthest planet from the Sun, Pluto is the coldest planet in the solar system. Temperatures are around minus 212 degrees Celsius. That's minus 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Everything on the surface is frozen. Plus, there's definitely no oxygen to breathe. Pluto and its moon Charon are so small they are barely visible. Even the very powerful Hubble Space Telescope has difficulty taking sharp pictures of Pluto.
If you stood on Pluto, the sun would look like a tiny star. So, if you're going to the far reaches of the outer planets anytime soon, better pack a flashlight.
Did you know that even if you stand absolutely still, you are still moving? That's because the Earth is always moving, even though we can't feel it. The Earth and the other planets spin like giant tops. This is called rotating. When your place on Earth faces the sun, it is day. When your place on Earth faces away from the sun, it is night. It takes Earth 24 hours, which is one day, to make a complete spin or rotation. Not only do the planets rotate, but they also circle around the sun. This is called orbiting or revolving. One orbit of the sun is a year for that planet.
Did you know in the old days, people thought that the sun and moon orbited around the Earth while the Earth stayed still? An ancient Greek astronomer named Ptolemy said that the Earth was the center of the universe. That seemed to be true at the time because from the Earth, it looks like the sun, moon, and stars all revolve around us. This belief didn't change until 1400 years later, when a Polish astronomer named Copernicus presented a new idea about the solar system. He said that the sun was the center of our solar system. And you know what? He was right. The Earth and all the planets do go around the sun.
But what keeps the planets orbiting around the sun? If they're moving, why don't they just fly off into space? The answer to that is gravity. Gravity is the pulling force between two objects. Gravity attracts all the planets toward the sun, keeping them orbiting. And here on Earth, gravity keeps everything on the ground.
Mission Control to Shuttle Columbia. Begin final preparations for re-entry and landing.
Shuttle to Mission Control. We have the runway in sight and we are go for landing.
Well, it's time to return home from our space mission. But before we re-enter the Earth's atmosphere, we need to prepare our mission report. What have we seen on this trip? Have we answered all our questions?
What is a planet?
Planets circle the sun and are either mostly solid and rocky or are gaseous. There are 9 planets in our solar system, including Earth. Mercury is the closest planet to the sun, and Pluto is the farthest.
Do the planets move?
Yes, planets move in 2 ways. They spin or rotate. This gives us day and night. And they circle or orbit around the sun. One revolution, the time it takes each planet to make one orbit, is that planet's year.
Could there be any life out there? On the other planets?
Well, we didn't see any on our journey, except on our home planet, Earth. No plants and no animals on the other planets. Conditions were pretty harsh. But maybe we missed it. Maybe it was very small. Next trip, we'll look even closer.
And finally, which planet has water, oxygen, and life?
That would be planet Earth, of course. Our place in space. Our home.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Shuttle Columbia to Mission Control. We have touchdown.
Mission Control to Columbia. Roger. Nice job, gang. Welcome back from your visit to the planet.